Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. My name is Alice. I am a Senior Outreach Specialist here at Jove. And today I have the honor of presenting a topic that is very near and dear to our hearts, which is libraries for sustainability. So the community around Jove is made of hundreds of librarians around the world, and I can see all of you are already connecting very promptly. And we've had an astonishing number of registrants for today's webinar, so I couldn't be more thankful for the community that we've got and that's interested in this very relevant topic to today's situation. So I will just start with a couple of housekeeping items. As you can see, this is a webinar, so we are in webinar mode. Unfortunately, people can't, unmute their microphones and speak up. In order to do so, you're going to have to request and maybe raise your hand. So if you've got any questions, you can either do that, and we're going to get to a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, or you can use the Q&A box. And I highly encourage you to do that because our speaker today is not only a very savvy person, but also he's created a wonderful presentation that I'm sure is going to stimulate many questions from you. And that's also why we're here. We want to create a space for exchange of ideas, to network, to make sure that people who share ideas and are like-minded can then get together and share more thoughts and impressions. So please use the Q&A box, use the chat box so we can make sure we can have a great discussion at the end of the presentation. The presentation and my own introduction should be about half an hour long. Then we're going to get to a Q&A session at the end, which is going to be about 15 minutes long. So you're going to be free to go before your next commitment in an hour. So a couple of words before I introduce our speaker, which I'm very eager to hear from today. So Jove is a scientific video resource. Many of you will be familiar with it. Some of you will not have heard of it before, but might be here to learn more about why it matters to be sustainable nowadays and why it matters to us as well. So we're going to be talking a lot about sustainable development goals today. And the SDGs, as the UN has created them, have a relevance for a variety of different institutions around the world, but not just institutions. They're also relevant to companies that work with and for institutions. So being a video resource, Jove was born around two very important pillars of the sustainability goals by the UN. One is access to knowledge. So being a video resource, you don't have to travel to places to access knowledge. You can use any device that you've got, and this creates equitable and accessible knowledge for everybody. The fact that you can go watch a video, make sure that this translates to different languages in multiple countries, it really creates for an environment where knowledge can flow and people can access it from pretty much anywhere around the world. And the second being resource management. It's very important when we talk about sustainability to ensure that we're not wasting our resources, that our researchers are applying the 3R rule, and that as we can contribute to making sure that we are managing our resources as best as we can. Well, having video protocols has always been one of the main goals of Jove, showing protocols that are not just written, but you can actually see them. So when you see somebody do something, it's so much easier to replicate. It's like seeing a video of a recipe rather than reading it. The fact that you can see how somebody else is doing something can really help you reproduce. And reproducibility is important because it allows us to waste a lot less. So I just want to mention these two things because the sustainability topic is really relevant to us, but today we're going to expand on this topic. We're going to see how the SDGs have been worked on and how they've been introduced in different contexts and how they can apply to a librarian role. How can libraries really contribute to these SDGs? So to talk about today's topic, I have invited Ertuğrul Simen, who is a librarian from Turkey, actually the library director at MEF University, and he defines himself in his very, very nice website, which I recommend visiting, an advocate for freedom of expression, diversity, transparency, and SDGs. So there couldn't be a more relevant person nowadays to talk about it, especially because he's also the Europe Regional Division Committee Chair and Regional Council member of IFLA, which is super important library association reuniting internationally members around the world. So without further ado, I will let him maybe present and share his screen. And Ertugrul, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to be hearing from you and to see your presentation today.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you for your kind words and nice introduction about me. And also, I would like to thank Joe for inviting me today. And also, my big thank goes to audience for joining us today. I'm going to start to talk about sustainability and SDGs, and I'm going to focus both items during my presentation. But I would like to start the presentation by defining sustainability and SDGs. Because, sustainability is a social goal for people to coexist on Earth over a long time. Definitions of this term are disputed and have varied with literature, context, and time. Sustainability usually has three dimensions, or pillars, of course: environmental, economic, and social. Many definitions emphasize the environmental dimension. This can include addressing key environmental problems, including climate change and biodiversity loss. The idea of sustainability can guide decisions at the global, national, and individual levels. A related concept is that of sustainable development, and the terms are often used to mean the same thing. UNESCO distinguishes the two as follows. Sustainability is often, though, as a long-term goal. For example, more sustainable world. While sustainable development refers to the many processes and pathways to achieve it. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015, provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet, now and into the future. At its heart are the 17 sustainable development goals, which are an urgent call for action by all developed and developing countries in a global partnership. They recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. Let me start to talk about the relations IFLA and sustainability. And of course, IFLA vision. When IFLA resources are searched, we notice that the relationship between sustainability and libraries was first discussed in the publication Libraries in the Information Society, published in 2002 and edited by Tatiana Ershova, Yuri Hovlov, and others. When we consider global development in sustainability, especially the United Nations sustainability history, we realize that librarians take early action and in this field as in many other fields. Former IFLA president Claudia Lux described the relationship and role of libraries and librarians in sustainability in her IFLA WLIC keynote speech held in Quebec in 2008. She says, libraries are key to the sustainability of the information society, as they have a network of experience in organizing the world's knowledge, storing it, and providing access to it. Librarians successfully work on finding ways to transfer this knowledge into the digital preservation and work together with many partners to achieve this goal. The time will come when we will have solved the problem of sustainability in the digital world. But we are not here yet, she says. Sustainability also means that libraries are connected to the people through communities, which gives them a social component of sustainability through the outreach work of libraries, which will be more and more important in the future. The speech is still mostly valid today, and I thought I agree with almost all of this statement. But unlike Claudia, I believe that the time has come to solve the problem of sustainability in the digital world, and that libraries should contribute to the solution. We have the power. IFLA carries out a wide range of activities on sustainability. IFLA groups all of these activities into two sections. These are ENSULIP and Library Map of the World. I will share some detailed information about these two sections in the following slides. Let's start with ENSULIP. This section was formed in 2009 as a relatively small special interest group. The driving force behind the formation of ENSULIP was President Claudia Lux's closing address to the IFLA conference 2008 in Quebec, Canada, in which she addressed for the first time the key role of libraries in the sustainability of the information society. I already mentioned all her explanations about the relationship between libraries, librarians, and sustainability. ENSULIP was established next year in IFLA WLIC conference Milan, Italy, as a special interest group, sponsored and supported by IFLA Preservation and Conservation section. The group's original name was Environmental Sustainability and Libraries, and the aim was to contribute to efforts for reaching the United Nations Millennium Goal 7, ensure environmental sustainability. IFLA Environment Sustainability and Libraries section, ENSULIP's current aim is to encourage librarians to inspire their communities into a more environmentally sustainable way of action by providing materials on green librarianship, giving voice to green librarians and library projects worldwide, leading by example and offering a discussion forum. How ENSULIP provides all these activities? One of ENSULIP's most important activities is the Green Library Award. We can list the objectives of giving this award as follows: to reward a green library projects that best communicate their commitment to environmental sustainability, to create awareness of libraries, social responsibility, and leadership in environmental education, support the worldwide Green Library movement, concerned with environmentally sustainable buildings, environmentally sustainable services, activities, programming, information resources, collections, projects, and resource and energy. To promote the development of green library initiatives locally, regionally, and worldwide. To encourage all types of libraries to present their green activities to an international audience actively. This award will help advance the profession by illuminating the role of libraries and librarians in advancing sustainability standards and promoting specialized knowledge within professional practice. This prize is awarded in two categories. Category 1 goes to Best Green Library Grand Scale Project. Category 2 goes to Best Green Library Projects. Of course, special recognition may be given to the project carried out with minimal resources, but has a big impact. There is another platform for IFLA sustainability activities. This is an important platform of IFLA activities on sustainability, and SDGs also are available in that platform, which name is Library Map of the World. Actually, everything started with this question. how can we advocate at the global, regional, and national levels without basic information about the number and state of libraries across the world? This was the question at the beginning. But this question prompted the development of the library map of the world. This started in 2017 as an initiative to collect and visualize basic library statistics and to highlight how libraries are contributing to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Library Map of the World covers library statistical data compiled from 141 different countries can be accessed in the Library Map of the World. And Library Map of the World also includes 57 SDGs and 30 country profiles. In the European, of course, there are some different regions in the Library Map of the World. In the European region of the Library Map of the World, statistics for 45 different countries, 22 SDGs, and 14 country profiles are available. Of course, there is a collection of inspiring stories about impactful library programs contributing to the achievement of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in the Library Map of the World. We call each individual library or an organization that submitted information for an SDG story and worked with the Library Map of the World team during its curation as SDG stories contributors. If you want to know how to add your story to the SDGs section of Library Map of the World, you may visit the Library Map of the World platform. There is a user manual that explains in great detail how to write and tell your SDG stories and how to upload them to the system can be accessed in the relevant section of Library Map of the World. This is a screenshot from Library Map of the World, which shows us one of the SDGs, which is 7, and it covers 8 stories from different 7 European countries. It doesn't important if the story is important for different regions, because you know that all the regions all over the world have their own conditions, economic conditions, environmental conditions, social and cultural conditions. So it is not important if the story is beneficial for different regions. You have to focus just on your conditions. It depends on you. And there is a team of IFLA. They describes and they evaluate your application. If they evaluate that your story is suitable to publish on a Library Map of the World, it approves by the team. And now, this is your turn. Please think about your country, your region, your library. If your country or your institution or your city doesn't have an SDG story in Library Map of the World, what will you add to the Library Map of the World? There are some opportunities to think about our activities, sustainability activities, and we may upload all the stories to the Library Map of the World. It depends on us. And this is the time to think about it. Of course, apart from ANSWERLIBS and Library Map of the World activities, IFLA leads and contributes to many other sustainability studies at global and regional levels. One of IFLA's latest and most important sustainability initiatives in the EU region is the manifesto for the 2024 EU elections. In 25th of April, 5 leading European library associations and organizations, EBLIDA, IFLA, LIBER, Public Libraries 2030, and NAPLE have released a manifesto calling on candidates for the European Parliament elections to ensure libraries realize their potential to build a stronger, fairer, more sustainable Europe. This manifesto sets out the concrete actions that future members of the European Parliament, as well as the other EU institutions, can take in their areas of competence to realize libraries' potential. We are calling on candidates and parties to commit to delivering on these recommendations. If they do so, we believe that Europe can realize the potential of its strong and far-reaching library infrastructure, from the smallest school and village libraries to major national and even international institutions. We look forward to working with libraries, library networks, and other partners to disseminate this manifesto and help make a reality of stronger libraries for sustainable future in Europe. Now, I would like to talk about the sustainability activities in Turkey. Although Turkish libraries' first studies on sustainability date back to 10 years ago, sustainability has been among the significant topics in Turkish libraries, especially in the last few years. As you see on the screen, an article published in German related to the sustainable library buildings was translated into Turkish in 2014. It was the first article translated in Turkish about sustainability 10 years ago. There's another initiative. Turkish librarians' studies on sustainability gained momentum after forming the UNAC Sustainability Group in 2022. UNAC is University and Research Librarians Association. This group works to raise awareness about sustainability in Turkey through webinars, conference presentations, publications, meetings, face-to-face meetings, even radio interviews. We had several activities during last year, almost last 2 years, and we had very many webinar presentations, paper presentation, poster presentation, both national and international level. In addition to the activities carried out by associations, universities, and other NGOs independent in Turkey, independent libraries also have many activities regarding sustainability. For example, the Rami Library in Istanbul received the Biosphere Sustainable Museum Certificate in 2023, making the first and so far the only library with a sustainability certificate in Turkey. Another example of sustainable library project is Turkey's first agro-library established in the city of Uşak. This Uşak city is located in the west part of Turkey. This initiative also managed to enter the short list of candidates for the 2024 Green Library Project Award given by ENSULIT. I hope that it will be one of the awarded projects. In recent years, there have been many sustainable library activities carried out by different type of libraries independently at the institutional level in Turkey. Of course, there are some other individual activities and individual attempts. Turkish libraries also participate in the work carried out by İFLA and prepare Turkish translations of İFLA sustainable activities. As seen on the screen, I believe that all these activities carried out in Turkish library field both increase awareness at the national and international level and contribute to goal of İFLA sustainable activities. And this is my last slide. I believe that we can create a sustainable future together and libraries will play an active and critical role in this process. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Ertugrul. This presentation was not only very, very interesting because from the position that you cover, like it's one of those situations where hearing from the people who work with these international bodies that are creating a space for us to contribute to the sustainability goals, I think it was really, really interesting. We don't get as many chances to hear from people who are in your position. So it was really cool to see what you've been doing and how people can get inspiration from these examples and then apply them to their own situation. I really loved when you said, now think about you. Is there a situation, is there a map of the world where you haven't seen this happen? And this map of the world was particularly relevant while you were talking, because we've received so many different messages from people saying hello from countries around the world, and I couldn't be more thankful. We've got people from Thailand, from South Africa, Tunisia, the UK, Kuwait. I can't even begin. It's been honestly really interesting to see how that can apply to librarians around the world. I think everybody will get a different source of inspiration. So I've got a couple of questions for you, obviously.
Thank you, Alice. Before following the questions, I would like to say something about my role and my position. You know that I'm living in a country located in between Middle East, Asia, and Europe. It's a very unique location for the countries, and I'm actually representing different cultures in the same platform. Sometimes I'm representing European style of librarianship. Sometimes I'm representing Middle East, former Russian countries, and Asia. It really gives me a unique experience to explain my feelings, my thoughts. I have a critical role for these kind of sustainability and other IFLA activities I'm trying to represent, and I'm trying to disseminate all these IFLA activities all around the world.
I think what you said is super important and super precious, actually, because there are a few people who are as well positioned as you are to really gather insights from different perspectives. Because I speak from a person who lives in Central Europe. One thing that we do a lot is assume that whatever we're doing, other countries are doing. Maybe, you know, the European Union is a bloc in that sense, but it's sometimes really useful and very informative to understand how different areas of the world can have different priorities but still relate to the same goals. And that's why the SDGs are important, because they're worldwide, and different areas around the world. You know, if you have access to the sea, this will be a priority. If you don't have access to the sea, this won't be a priority. But it's really interesting to see how people around the world can all converge towards the same goals, absolutely, with different outputs. I think what you said is super important. So we've got a bunch of questions. People have been super active in the boxes, and I would like to start from a question about engagement, because obviously everything that you discuss is something that librarians can implement. They can start thinking about their projects. But one person said, in my situation, it's really hard to then find involvement in the community. How do you involve students or even the broader community to a Green Library initiative?
Actually, you know, the communication and interaction is the key point for that kind of implementations. We have to keep our relations as strong as possible. There are some ways to connect librarianship department and list departments all over the countries and all over Europe and all over the world, of course. There are some possibilities to meet all the librarianship department students and academicians to create our own study area, and we may create some ideas for the future commonly. This is the way I think. And there are many opportunities. There are some IFLA channels and other social media channels focusing on sustainability and sustainable libraries, green libraries. There are many platforms, and if needed, just after the webinar, they can reach out to me and I may give some important and relevant contact details, those people.
Thank you for your availability on that as well. I can vouch for Ertugrul. He's been amazing throughout. Our communication has always been wonderfully prompt. But also when he says, "Please contact me," I can assure you he will absolutely
Not
answer.
only me, there are some other platforms and sections at IFLA. You know, we mentioned Ensulip. They may also contact with Ensulip committee members. I'm sure that some of the committee members from different part of the world, they can contact them directly in their own language as well. It's getting better for a better communication.
Agreed. And that's also, I didn't mention it at the beginning of the webinar, but we have activated a feature for subtitles within Zoom. So if anybody wants to add subtitles as they're listening to us, they're also able to do that. You just have to click on the show CC captions and you've got subtitles automatically generated. So obviously they won't be perfect, but in a variety of different languages. So since so many people are listening to us from areas around the world. We've got so many other questions. I don't even know where to begin. Will somebody they said something really lovely about how in these divided times it's good to have togetherness and shared goals, which is just a comment, but I really wanted to share that because I also believe in that. And I think sharing practices and knowledge also puts us in a position to feel closer to each other. Somebody is asking, well, there's a pretty long question, and I think it's interesting to hear from Zafar Khan, who says, libraries can implement green initiatives to reduce their environmental footprint. These initiatives may include energy efficient building design, waste reduction, recycling programs. He lists a couple of other things. And he says one of the key methods is also reduce sharing and open access resources. Resource sharing and open access resources. How does IFLA work on this in terms of consortium and open science?
Actually, there are two different sections in infrastructure dedicated to resource sharing and document delivery and open science. If Zafer, I think his name was Zafar Khan contact that committees or sections directly, they get more information about their activities. And as far as I know, that they are organizing some online and in-person meetings all over the world. And nearest document delivery and resource sharing ILDS, Interlending and Document Supply Conference will be held in Kazakhstan very soon, just before the end of this year. There are some the time changes, but I'm sure that it will be held before the end of this year. Zafar can contact them directly and get more information about their activities. Also, as I mentioned before, there is another dedicated section of IFLA which is focusing on open science and open access activities. They may contact them directly. There are several possibilities and opportunities for
I'm
both.
sure there are. I'm absolutely sure there are, because even just browsing through the website, I could see the Green Library Initiative and so many other things. I got lost because there's so much useful information in there that really can be a reference.
One additional information about e-resource sharing. About 2 years, actually, during the COVID pandemic, one of the IFLA committee, Document Delivery and Resource Sharing Advisory Committee, decided to provide a free of charge electronic resource sharing platform, which was the name of Received Resource Sharing for during COVID, resource sharing during COVID term, like that. The project was transformed as an Erasmus project and funded by EU. And at the end of the project, there was an achievement. There was a goal to achieve, to provide, to create an online platform, which name is Received. I will let the link of that platform in the chat box, and all the audience can follow and access that platform through that link.
We would really appreciate that. Thank you. Moving on to another sort of question. You mentioned, we mentioned open resources and sustainability in that sense. There's an anonymous attendee who's asking how to be sustainable in terms of e-resources. As they're saying, every year the subscription prices go up. So how can we sustain that?
Actually, as librarian, it's very difficult to answer this question because I'm representing librarian side, but I was the president of Turkish Library Consortium, which name is Turkish Anatolian Anatolian University Libraries Consortium. I was leading that consortium, and I participated many subscription renewal negotiations and making new subscription negotiations. It was difficult to manage price policies both on librarian side and publisher sides. But I think that there are some opportunities to come closer as librarians, to create new structures, to negotiate with the publishers, because the prices are always rising up from year to year, and many countries having some financial issues. For example, during just after the pandemic, even in Europe and US, the libraries had financial issues, and many library consortia, big consortia, would like to transform all their priced agreements to transformative agreements. There are some ways, and we may follow all IFLA activities. Also, IFLA has a dedicated group to manage these kind of things. This is the address. If audience go to IFLA web page, they may find more than they expected.
Absolutely. And what you mentioned about the consortium, I think it's something that sometimes we might tend to underestimate a little bit, or maybe not even consider, not keep in our radars. But consortia really work wonders in these situations because they can help negotiating a better price. While you were talking, I also, this is slightly more on a personal note, but I also thought of something important, and thank you for sharing the link as well, once when I mentioned at the beginning that one of the benefits of having an e-resource is that you tend to waste less because you're converging towards a situation where you can access knowledge from anywhere. For us, speaking about Jove, we had a situation where a librarian, I remember when I was working with them on a project, they created a report of how much some e-resources had helped some departments save up money, and through that they could gather more funding. And this is because sometimes we forget that, yes, we're spending maybe a little bit of money on some things, but this little bit of money is helping us save more in other resources. So it's always a balance, and I highly recommend somebody to speak to the departments they give these resources to and really gather some insights into how they find them valuable, because that can also bring more value in terms of money and in terms of what the library can actually end up spending at the end of the year. But that was just a slightly more personal note since we're talking about it and it relates to my experience as well. We have another really interesting question, which Yasmin Yunus is asking. So, why, when we talk about sustainable development goals, we always go to the environmental issues and forget the economic and social issues to which libraries can contribute? Aside from the environment, what roles can libraries play to achieve sustainable development goals on the social and economic levels?
Actually, I already stated in my presentation, and I'd like to check my notes. And yes, I stated that many definitions emphasize the environmental dimension. So many people describe sustainability is only for our environment, for our world. But there are some other, of course, there are some other pillars. There are three dimensions: environmental, economic, and social. As Yasmin mentioned, that there are some other economic and social dimensions we have to focus. And as librarians, we are focusing on social dimensions most than the. It depends. Sometimes we are focusing on social dimensions more than the others. Sometimes we are focusing on economic dimensions for than others. Nowadays, for example, in Europe, we are focusing on social dimensions because there is EU elections very soon, and we are trying to disseminate all our activities and disseminate the library's critical role for the sustainable future. And we try to activate some new EU members and former EU members and all other stakeholders in EU. So, as librarians, we are not focusing on only environmental or economic dimensions. We also focusing on social part of the sustainability activities.
Thank you, Ertugrul. Yes, I couldn't agree more with both the person, Yasmin, who asked the question, and with you. These two aspects are just as important as the environment. When we say sustainability, it can be sustainability interpreted in many different ways, access to knowledge being one of them. The fact that anybody from all walks of life, the moment they get access to something, they can watch it. They only need a device, for example. That's a social aspect of it. You know, many.
Also, there is another issue I may state now. For example, the refugees is a big issue for Europe. Nowadays, Europe is getting many refugees from different parts of the world, and it's a social problem. And as librarians, we are trying to provide some special services for that part of the population. And we are as librarians, we are trying to find best solution, best practices, and best services for those people as well.
Agreed. And the fact that, you know, knowledge can also be shared in multiple languages with subtitles. Now we've got AI helping us with all of this. It really creates for a social, for implementing those social aspects as well as, you know, all of the others that we've discussed.
Also, one of the critical points for sustainability is diversity. We have to think diverse. Because, for example, in my country, there are many different cultural-based citizens from in different parts of the country. They really diverse, and we have to provide some special services for different part of the populations, even gender diverse. Young diversity.
Agreed. I'm so pleased that you brought that up because that's another huge aspect of the librarian work. I think librarians are in a wonderful position because they interact with people. They see what people need all the time. They are in touch with the users. They see the reality of not just a classroom like faculty might see, but they see the reality of everybody within an institution, from the students who are 18 and entering the world of knowledge for the first time, all the way down to 6-year-old professors who've had a long-standing career and have changed their access to resources in, so many different ways. So I think everything that you said today, Ertugrul, is wonderful source of inspiration for us to think about how we can implement sustainability in many different aspects, how we can refer to guidelines, to international bodies that can help us guide our thoughts and not feel sometimes lost or maybe lonely when it comes to wanting to implement something new, seeing that there are institutions around the world and international bodies around the world helping us provide this innovation. I think it's absolutely pivotal.
There is one additional information for the audience. You know that IFLA is the umbrella organization worldwide, and IFLA has very strong communications with third parties as well as United Nations. and IFLA getting more interactions with all the parties which supports sustainable activities all around the world. So IFLA is the key platform to find all the details about sustainability activities, and there are some opportunities to access third parties throughout the IFLA.
Absolutely. Ertugrul, thank you so much. This brings us to the end of our session. We're on the clock. Everybody will have a few minutes to disconnect and, take their time to go somewhere else if they need to. But I would love to thank you so much for this presentation. The audience absolutely loved it. We received many great comments, and I encourage all of you to keep in touch, to share your thoughts. There's also a survey at the end of this webinar where you can add some information. You can let me know if you liked the webinar, if there's something else you'd like to address in the future. We'll collect all of this and we'll make sure that we can provide more and more informative webinars. This is a series. It's not an individual webinar. We'll have many more guests, many more speeches in the future. So I would love to thank you all for being with us today. It was a fantastic session. And thank you again, Ertugrul, for being a wonderful speaker and a wonderful contributor to this discussion.
I would like to thank you, Alice, especially to you for inviting me this great webinar, and also I would like to thank all the audience. Still, they are waiting for us, and they are sending their best messages to us. Thank you for your inviting me and for this opportunity.
My pleasure, really. Thanks again, everybody, and have a wonderful day. We will share the recording so you can disseminate it and drive sustainability also through that. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.